It's 12 o'clock.
Welcome everyone to the virtual tour of the Dan River Basin, Part 1, Virginia. My name is Tiffany Hayworth. I'm with the Dan River Basin Association, and we have several panelists with us on today, but I will introduce them as we get to their section of the program today. Welcome. You can use your chat box at any time to ask a question or your Q&A, and we will try to answer all questions at the end of the presentation, unless you feel it is extraordinarily important we hear you right now. Go ahead and just type as we're going through the presentation. You can send your questions as you're thinking of them, but we'll be answering them toward the end. So let's get started. So I want to start by just showing you a map of the Dan River Basin. It's about 3,300 square miles, covering 16 counties in Virginia and North Carolina. And what designates this area is everywhere the Dan River flows, and it crosses the North Carolina and Virginia border several times. So we are lucky to be able to have our basin cover 2 states, which also has its challenges as well. A little bit about the Dan River Basin Association. We have 3 main priorities of recreation, education, and stewardship. In our recreation area, we focus on First Saturday outings, which are free outings for anyone of all ages and abilities. We hold these every first Saturday of every month. We have not held them for the last 2 months, which has been very disappointing, but this coming June, we are doing a special June outing, and you can read about that on our website. We develop and plan for and construct parks, trails, and river accesses. We work with municipalities on master planning. We have an interactive map on our site showing outdoor recreational assets, and we do special outings throughout the year for our members. Our education, we have a full line of educational programs. Our newest is the Darba at Home. If you haven't checked that out yet, that was just started recently. And again, you can learn about each one of these programs and everything I'm showing you about the Dan River Basin on our website. There's full explanations of all of these things. And finally, stewardship. We focus on water quality testing. We have a water protector certification program, riparian buffers, storm drain marking, and of course, cleanups. Last year, we cleaned up hundreds of miles of rivers and trails, and thank you to the thousands of volunteers who are out helping us throughout the year. So let's get started. The Dan River Basin, it is a beautiful place with all kinds of topography. We've got flatlands, we've got beautiful lakes, we've got gorgeous vistas, and of course we have agricultural land. And throughout the Dan River Basin, there are literally thousands of cool places to visit, unique things to see. So we can't obviously cover all of those in 45 minutes today, but we're going to highlight some, and we'll leave it up to you to go out and explore on your own some other ones that are available. Oh, we also have urban sites. This is an aerial shot of Danville. So we've got it all here in the Dan River Basin. But we're going to start right now up here in the northern part of the basin where the Dan River starts its headwaters, and well, not quite Franklin County. We're going to start in Franklin County. The headwaters of the Dan River are over here in the Patrick County area. But we're going to invite Krista Hodges to talk about a very cool asset up in Franklin County. Krista?
All right, thank you, Tiffany. All right, if you can go to there we go. So the park that I'm going to talk about is Wade Recreation Area, and it's on Wade Park Road in Rocky Mount in Franklin County, and it is maintained by Franklin County Parks and Recreation. So Wade Recreation Area, like if you're in Franklin County, mostly everyone around here calls it Wade Park. If we say we're going to go to the park, that's the park that we're going to is Wade Park. But anyone outside of the area, if you look it up, it's going to be called Wade Recreation Area. All right. So Wade Recreation Area is a really neat place. It's a 220-acre facility. So it used to be a dairy farm back many years ago. And unfortunately, the farmer had some financial issues and the farm was, taken over by the county. And so they made it into this beautiful park. And personally, it's my favorite park in Franklin County just because it has so many amenities, but at the same time, it's a park that has a bunch of different things. It has soccer and baseball and softball and lacrosse fields if you're into those kind of like recreational sports. But it also has a lot of other amenities like canoeing, kayaking along the Pig or in the Pig River. And you can also do tubing. They have tubing rentals there at a very low cost. I think it's like $5 per like 2 hours. So it's very inexpensive, but you can also like bring your own tubes. You can go to Walmart and get your own tube and take it to the park and use it as well. But if you rent their tubes, you have to do it within the park itself, but they have tube accesses along the Pig River. And they also have 2 ADA walking trails. And then they have other trails that are in the woods. They have mountain biking trails. They have more like your natural top trails, and then they have like the ADA walking trails are more like your crushed run trails. They don't have any paved trails. If you're looking for something like that, they have another park in Franklin County that you can get that type of top, but not in this particular park. They also have picnic shelters that you can rent. They're pretty inexpensive and you can rent them for half a day or a full day. And then they have playgrounds. Now, right now in this time, the playgrounds are taped off, so you can't use those. But anything else in the park you can use except for the restrooms as well. They've just closed those down. So it's a nice park to go to. You could easily spend like half the day or even a full day at this park because they have so many nice amenities. And if you're not into like renting the picnic shelters, you can also use the picnic tables, which they have along the along the Pig River as well. All right, go ahead. All right, so this is just a few pictures. These are stock photos that I found, and then I've got some of my pictures that I've taken as well in the park. But they have 2 really nice bridges in the park that go over the Pig River. And then this picture down here on the right of the waterfall, that's kind of like an iconic picture in the park. A lot of people go there and take like photography sessions along this waterfall. They will actually like wade across the river and go over on the waterfall and climb on it. And it's just a beautiful waterfall over there. That's one of the spots that we love to go to as well. And then there's the tubing through the park. It's really fun. We did that last summer for the first time. And, if you're looking for something different to do, like it's not just you're floating down the Dan River and it's not a lot, kind of like smooth. This is a little bit more like fast pace on the Pig River. So try that one out if you get the chance. All right. So we went there this past weekend. So if we're going to take our children there, like just to give you an idea of the different types of trails, if we take our children and we just want to do something easy, then we'll do the fitness trail, which is one of the ADA access trails. And that's just like the crushed run. It goes over the bridge there that you can see in the background. And it's about 2 miles long. So it just kind of loops around the soccer field. And my oldest daughter took her bicycle and rode that around the park. And it's just an easy walk for, children or for people that are doing, just running or biking or anything like that. And they want something more easy to do. But you can see the whole trail system, all over the park. They have about 5 miles of trails throughout the park. And if you are looking for something a little bit more rigorous, they've got mountain biking trails and trails that go up through the wooded area. So they're a little bit more steep. Okay. So there's one of the bridges. Like I said, my oldest took her bicycle, and a lot of families do that. It's a really, really nice area to ride around on your bicycle or run. There's a lot of people running there on that fitness trail as well. And you can take your dogs, a lot of nice areas there for your dogs to sniff around. And then you can see there's the Pig River. It's a beautiful river, and you've got several places there along the trails that you can look off into the river. A lot of people, you know, go on the trails and they'll bring their trout fishing stuff, their fly fishing gear, or, you know, just your spin caster or anything like that. And they'll go over in the river there and catch trout. It's actually a trout stocked river by the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. So just keep in mind, if you go there to trout fish, you need your license and your trout stamp. But we went there 2 weekends ago, and Lily caught a 14-inch rainbow trout. So, I mean, they're there. It was pretty exciting for her to be able to do that. And, you know, sometimes you think, well, kids don't really have the opportunity to do that at some of these places that are heavily used, but we were there for like 30 minutes and she caught the trout. So it was pretty cool. All right, go ahead. Okay, so I like this. This is one of the pictures that I took while we were there. I hadn't really paid attention to this before, but this is on the more like rigorous trails that are going to go up through the woods. They ask the visitors to, you know, indicate the trail conditions, maybe if it's been raining a lot or something like that. The visitors can put on there that after they've walked through, the trails are probably going to be wet, or there might be some difficulty or something. So I like that. I haven't really seen that at a lot of other trails. And then you can see they have, you know, the trails named and easily marked for you to know which trail you're going on and that kind of thing. All right, go ahead. Another thing that I liked is they indicated that the Pig River was being monitored by volunteers for the Virginia Saver Streams, the macroinvertebrate testing. You don't always see that in parks throughout the basin, but they had that in an area. It was right near their canoe access where the steps were. So it was easy to see, and it kind of gave you like a sense that, you know, they know the stream is being protected and that kind of thing. So that sign was there. It made me feel comfortable. And there's another picture of that waterfall. That's kind of in the main area. If that's something that you're looking to do or looking to go see as well, it's in the main area of the park. So you don't have to walk very far to see that. There's some pictures of my girls. Like I said, we went there last weekend to get some pictures, and you can see that you've got some, you know, natural surface trails. You've got your crushed run trails. So whatever you're into, they more than likely have it, except for the paved trail. And there was plenty of the locust there. So Lily was just having a blast finding all of the locust. All right, go ahead. All right, last thing. So one cultural aspect about this trail that's kind of unique for our area is the Carolina Road. As far as history goes, it was part of the Great Wagon Road, where some of the early settlers back in the 1700s used to use the road to transport goods and livestock through the region down to the Carolinas. So it started up in Pennsylvania and went down to Georgia. So within Wade Park, there is a 1/4-mile section of the old road. And you can see that as soon as you go down into the park, and it passes through, like I was telling you, the Wade Homestead, which would have been the dairy farm and that kind of thing that was there previously before the park. So that's just a really neat, you know, history aspect if you're into that kind of stuff. Okay,
Krista, thank you so much for sharing your experience at Wade Recreational Park, or Wade Park as the locals call it. And we really appreciate your time today. And now we're going to move into Patrick County, part of the basin, which is the headwaters of the Dan River. And Wayne Kirkpatrick is going to talk about some trails that are going on down there.
First one we're going to talk about is actually part of 5 trails. The trails have been here for quite some time, but we've recently enhanced them with a project called Trail Hands. And the HANDS part of it is an acronym that stands for Heritage, Art, Nature, Dreams, and Stories. And each of these sculptures, the hand sculptures, depict a different aspect of the HANDS. So they're very interesting to see. They're located various places around the county. I know Sarah in a few minutes is going to talk about one, the Leaf Trail at Reynolds Homestead. We also have one at IC Dehart Park. We'll show a little more about that in a minute. One on the Mayo River Rail Trail. We got a clip of that. one at the Mountaintop Park, and one at Dan River Park. So it covers quite a wide area across the county. Okay. Just to look at one of our natural paved trails. Most of our trails are natural surface. This particular paved trail is in Stewart. It's the Mayo River Rail Trail. It has kind of 3 arms to it if you start in the center of it. And it's 1.35 miles total. So if you start at one point and do out and back on all 3 legs, you've got 2.7 miles. And it's a very easy trail to walk. It's ADA approved and runs alongside, portions of it run alongside the Mayo River. And the hope is that this will be expanded at some point in the future. Okay. And one of the hand trails, I.C. Dehart Park, this gives you an idea of the extent of the trails that are there. This is not only a good walking area or jogging area, it's also mountain biking because it has some very steep terrain, and the trails are put in with IMBA standards, so they're sustainable, and it's something like almost 25 miles of trails in I.C. Dehart Park. This is in the Woolwine area of Patrick County. All right. And this is a new trail we're working on. The Stewart Rotary Club secured a grant, and we were putting in a trail on private property in the town of Meadows of Dan. And what you're looking at there, the wavy line going through is actually the bypass of the Highway 58 going around Meadows of Dan. And if you come down to the red dot, that's on Business 58 in the town of Meadows of Dan. That's actually just behind the fire and rescue station. And we have a gravel parking lot and kiosk there at the beginning of the trail. The trail itself is 4/10 of a mile long and ends right there for the moment. The hope is that we'll be able to extend it up and to the right through the woods and then along that roadway out to Mabry Mill, which is about, from the green dot, it's about 1.5 miles to Mabry Mill. And eventually we'll connect that. We're working with the National Park Service and Blue Ridge Parkway folks on getting permission to go through the woods. And if any of you have dealt with that, there's a lot of red tape and hesitation and hoops, and it's just a slow process. So we're advancing at the speed of government there. Eventually we will have that completed, I hope. And then there's possibility we may be able to loop around this way where the arrow is going and be able to complete a second loop still on private property. Now that'll have to stay in the field. There you go. Now go across to the red line. There you go. No.
Nope.
There you
Sorry,
go. That's
wait.
good.
I'm going the wrong direction. Sorry about that.
That's
My
okay.
clicker has got a mind of its own today.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going
Loop
this
around,
way.
Loop around. Don't cross the highway.
Okay.
Now go back to the red line.
There we go.
Eventually that loop is all in private hands, and it involves about 6 or 7 different landowners, and some are amenable and some are hesitant. No one has said no, and we're hopeful, very hopeful, that we'll be able to, once we get foot traffic on this trail and a little more of local knowledge about it existing gets out there, that we'll be able to expand this trail on out and get some more length to it. But it's going to be a bird watcher's dream there during the migration system, or any time of year, but especially early in the year and late in the year when the warblers and everything are coming through. As the line goes up across the field there, the wooded area immediately on the right side along the red line is a drop off into a ravine, and it's just alive with songbirds. Every time we've gone up there and worked, it's just chittering and chattering all over the place. So I think it's going to be a really fantastic draw to the Meadows of Dan community. So, all right, next slide. This is a portion of the trail you can see here being roughed in. This is when we were constructing it. And that's actually a tunnel that goes under the 58 bypass that was on the previous map. The trail goes through that and then continues on. In the foreground, about 100 yards before that, the edge of the shot is the parking lot and the kiosk. In the background, the trail curves to the left and goes up across the field to the green dot that you saw in the distance on the map. So that's that view. The tunnel will be daytime lighting per VDOT standards, and it'll be solar powered. So, and that's being installed during this week now. This is a view from the upper end of the trail, almost to the green dot. And this is when we were first roughing it in. And it's going to be a natural surface trail. It's much smoother than that now. It's very suitable for walking. In the background, the large roofs you can see in the background is the Meadows and Dan community. And the one on the right there that we just crossed over the other way, there you go. That's Nancy's chocolate factory. So if you walk the trail, go get something to eat, or go get something to eat and snack on, and then walk the trail. It works both ways. You can burn those calories off. All right, that's all for that one.
Well, thank you so much, Wayne. We really appreciate it. There are a lot of opportunities to do some really cool things in Patrick County. And like I said, we couldn't cover them all, but
If I could add one more thing.
Yes, of course.
You mentioned headwaters of the Dan. Patrick County is an all headwaters county. We have the North and South Mayo, the Dan, and the Smith. Most of the rivers that comprise the Dan River watershed start in Patrick County, and it's a really unique feature. So we've got many more trails we could talk about. So come explore here, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we're going to travel to a little portion here called the Reynolds Homestead, and Sarah Ray, the director, is going to tell us a little bit about this gem that is in the middle of Patrick County.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. So as Tiffany shared, my name is Sarah Ray, and I handle our education coordinating at Reynolds Homestead. So the Reynolds Homestead was originally called Rock Spring Plantation, and Hardin and Nancy Reynolds settled the plantation in 1825. You might be familiar with R.J. Reynolds. Their son went on to create R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. And so this was his boyhood home that they've restored, and we have historic tours all year long, or through the summer into the fall. His nephew, Richard S. Reynolds, went on to create the U.S. Foil Company, which is called Reynolds Metals now, and they are a Richmond-based company that creates Reynolds Wrap. So many people know about the tobacco side of the family, but not necessarily the metal side. And the family to this day still currently lovingly refers to the tobacco or the metal side of the family. So just a quick little tidbit there. Our property, Reynolds Homestead, was deeded to Virginia Tech in 1970 by Nancy Susan Reynolds, and she did $1 million restoration, and a lot of the family members donated some of the artifacts back to the house. So we're really fortunate to have a lot of really great artifacts there. We fall under outreach and international affairs, so we are very engaged in the community and love to tell the family story. So as we move forward, this is a aerial of our property. So we have 787 acres, and this is in Kreitz, Virginia. And lucky for us that we also have a forestry research center that is in charge of managing 780 of those acres. So in the bottom right corner of the photo, this is our forestry research center, and they have a couple of greenhouses, and they were created to study forest biology, including genetics, physiology, and soils. So some of the projects they work on include harvesting to increase forest health, productivity, site preparation, fertilization, and lolly pine physiology. So they do some really amazing work, and I think every February Darba holds a hike there, and the superintendent Kyle Pierre goes through and tells about some of the research. So if you ever get a chance, please go through and check that out. To the left over here, in the bottom left, this is the Community Enrichment Center. We are in charge of the other 7 acres and the historic home as well. So our mission is to not only conserve and tell the family story, but also to provide arts and cultural programming, economic development, and leadership professional development. So we have all kinds of programs, and while we're closed right now, I want to share a couple of opportunities of things that you might engage in if you are looking for an activity in the next couple of weeks. So as I mentioned, our historic home is open for tours on Saturdays and Sundays, April through October. And while we're closed to tours right now, we do have some really great signs set up and welcome anyone to come to the site dawn to dusk and do a self-guided tour. So on the property in the top left corner, this is our historic home. So where R.J. Reynolds and his 15 brothers and sisters were born. And we also have in the top right corner, you'll see a picture of the family cemetery. And we still do have family members that actively engage with the property and are still being buried there. So we're fortunate for not only the university support, but also family support. In the bottom right corner, you'll see a shot of the outdoor kitchen and our ice house. We also have a creamery, a granary, and a tobacco barn as well, and they all have signs accompanying them, so you can come out and take your tour. And in the bottom left corner, this is a photo of our enslaved community cemetery. And this is not only just such a peaceful and beautiful area, we are actively collecting lots of research and compiling that now to be able to build that into our historic interpretation, which we're really excited about, to just be able to tell a more comprehensive story of the property. So as you're out taking your historic tour, please check out all of these locations. And just to share a little sneak peek inside of the house, these are two photos, one of the bedroom on the left and then one on the right. This is our parlor. And as I mentioned, a lot of these are original artifacts that have been donated from the family back to us to have, so we're very fortunate for that. And if you're looking for a tour, you want to check in the inside of the house, we do have a virtual tour on YouTube that you can visit, and I've shared that link with Tiffany. Hopefully we'll be able to share that with you after the presentation, or just visit YouTube and type in Reynolds Homestead Tour. Our historic service coordinator, Beth Almanford, does a really great job telling the story. So as it was referenced earlier, we do have a short leaf trail, and our leaf trail stands for Virginia's Link to Education About Forest. So this is a 1-mile loop, and not only is it just a good source of exercise and being out in nature, it's also an outdoor heritage-based classroom that's been correlated to 6th grade SOL standards. So if you've got some kids at home or grandkids and you want to get them out and learn a little bit about nature and about history and social studies, go ahead and bring them over and check that out. On the right, this is a map of our leaf trail. So as you see in this top parking lot here, there is a small kiosk there that has brochures and has the map of the trail as well as information about each stop along the trail. So as you leave this parking lot and cross our historic Circle Road, you can enter the ADA accessible birding trail, and that goes out to a small overlook at the end. And while originally it was a bit of an overlook, the trees are very tall now, so it's just kind of peaceful to be out in the pine trees. You also might notice as you walk through the birding trail, various elements. We have a low ropes challenge course in that pine thicket, and so we do a lot of professional development, experiential education there. As you come back out to the road, the trail circles the historic circle. You'll pass by the tobacco barn, head up towards the cemetery, and down towards the Friendship Garden. And so I'll show you a couple of other photos of things you might see along this trail. The photo to the left, this is the beginning of our birding trail, as I first mentioned. And then as you circle through the trail and come down towards the rock spring, you will see the original spring that has fed the water on the property for many years. And then as you move forward, we just recently, a couple years ago, have installed the Smith Infinity Garden. And so John Smith and his family have been really great supporters of the Reynolds Homestead for many years. And in addition to being a mathematician, he was also an avid azalea and rhododendron gardener. So they have set up an azalea garden here with an infinity walk pathway, as well as a little gazebo from their original homestead. So feel free to come and set up, have a picnic, or take a meditative walk through the infinity pathway. It's just such a beautiful, peaceful addition. We're really excited to have that. And as you move forward, we do have 2 research ponds on the property that our Forestry Center manages. So this is a picture of one of them. Not only is it just beautiful, but you also have the opportunity to capture lots of wild animals here and there. You might run into some beavers or wild ducks or birds, and it's a beautiful aspect of our trail. Additionally, if you've been to the homestead, you've probably seen this tree. It's one of our most notable landmarks on the property. This is our catalpa tree, and it's believed to be over 200 years old and perhaps older than the house. And we keep our fingers crossed every year that it will continue to stay healthy and bloom. And luckily, we've seen that every year so far. But you might notice its very gnarly trunk is just a sight for many people. Love to see that and take photos. There's also a little bench in front of it, so if you need to take a break from your hike and just relax there and take in the beauty. We also were able to create graphs of this tree, and there are 5 of them planted on the back side of the Community Enrichment Center. So as you're completing the leaf trail and coming up from the research pond, you'll probably see those as well. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of our work is multi-pronged, and one of those aspects is partnering with local organizations that are doing cool things and educational things as well. And as it was referenced earlier, the Streamside Trees in the Classroom program through DARPA, we've been fortunate enough to be the planting site for Patrick County for the past 2 years. So as you're going through the leaf trail and leaving the gazebo, maybe you'll see some trees growing along the creek side there. If so, send them a little love and encouragement. And this is a picture of just some of our students planting them last year. And then the other aspect I wanted to mention, the Patrick County Green Team, and this is a project that started with the Stewart Rotary Club, and DARPA's been a really great partner with them on that. We recently partnered with the Green Team to set up stations throughout the county. So if you find your way towards our Community Enrichment Center, the foyer is open. We do have bags available there if you're looking for an activity and want to pick up some trash along the way or have any that you need to drop off. Those are available as well. And then I wanted to share about our Barn Quilt Trail. Wayne referenced one of our air shift projects through the Trail Hands project, and Virginia Tech, they got the rights to the AIR curriculum about 2 years ago, which the idea is to hold a 2.5-day workshop, bringing together creative and business-minded people to collaborate on a project. And so one of the projects that came out of this was the Patrick County Barn Quilt Trail. And you'll see on the left, this is a photo of our tobacco barn and our barn quilt trail, our barn quilt that has our beautiful tobacco leaves on it. And while there are over 50 in Patrick County on abandoned barns and buildings and businesses, we also have 2 others that are very close to the Reynolds Homestead, probably about a half a mile away. You'll see one, Round Hill Plants, has created a sunflower barn quilt and actually planted sunflowers in front of it. So it's just a beautiful thing to take in as you're either on your way to or from the homestead. And then to the right, this is a photo of our director, Julie Walter-Still. And while she is a Hokie by trade, she is a Tiger at heart. So you will see her Clemson barn quilt. And she lives about a half a mile from the center as well. So you'll see her and her husband and their dog in their Clemson Tiger best. So we encourage you to visit the Patrick County Barn Quilt Trail Facebook. And there's a list of over 50 quilts on the trail, and it's just a great activity for a beautiful afternoon to go take in some public art. And the last aspect I wanted to share with you is, as I mentioned, Nancy Susan Reynolds deeded the property of the Reynolds Homestead to Virginia Tech in 1970. So this summer is our 50th anniversary. And in celebration, we are collecting stories and memories and experiences that people have had. So if you have been to the Reynolds Homestead before, we would love for you to share your stories with us. Maybe you learned a new skill or met a new friend, whatever it may be. We invite you to share those stories with us. And if you haven't been to visit us yet, please come and experience some of our programs or activities, and be sure to tell us about your experience afterwards. So thank you for your time, and Tiffany, I'll pass it back to you.
Let me unmute myself. Thank you, Sarah. We really appreciate it. And next, we are going to move to South Boston and talk to our panelist, Chris Langan, and talk about the tobacco trail. We're over here in the basin now. So you're on, Chris. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today to tell you about the Tobacco Heritage Trail in South Boston. I've been hiking for more than 18 years, so I am thrilled that this trail is only a mile from my home. South Boston was built on tobacco, so the Roanoke River Rails to Trails Corporation aptly named the trail to reflect the area's tobacco industry that had been here for centuries. The abandoned rail corridor was purchased from Norfolk Southern, and the trail opened in 2012. The original trail was 2.6 miles.
Sorry about that. I went too
Okay.
far. Go ahead.
That's all
Sorry.
right.
I'm click happy.
You would have had to turn around to complete 5.2 miles. But the first extension to the trail began this March and is expected to be completed in August. It will then run the length of 3.83 miles, passing Berry Hill and terminating at Myrie Creek. And there's hopes to do a 5K on this trail. The width of the trail is 8 to 10 feet, allowing for plenty of social distancing. The surface is natural with some stone and gravel. And my 80-year-old friend who walks 3.25 miles on the trail with me at an impressive pace loves this trail because it is completely flat. There's a porta-john located 1.6 miles down the trail at the main picnic area. I always feel safe on this trail, and even with T-Mobile, I always have a cell service. Next. Okay, and as you can see, there are lots of birds to enjoy while you're on your walk. Just a few listed here. Next. Our trailhead, and next. So immediately past the trailhead, you'll turn right and you'll go to the small picnic area you see top left, and then continue down the trail. At about 1/4 mile, bottom right picture is where the only place on the trail is that you have to cross a road, and there's very little traffic there. Okay, next. Okay, top left picture. At this T, turn to the left to go to the crossing of the dam, where General Nathaniel Greene executed one of the greatest military feats and changed the tide of the Revolutionary War. Each year near Valentine's Day, there's a presentation about this at the Prizery. It is where tobacco was prized or pressed into barrels. The Prizery is now a cultural and arts center. It is the highlight of our tobacco warehouse district, and it's located about 1/4 mile from the trail. So the top right picture is the exit off the trail. You'll turn right here and go down to the park and the mighty dam. Next. Here you see a monument to honor those who crossed the dam in 1781. Next. So this is a sign on the fence along the Dan River. Next. This is a replica of a 35-foot long wooden bateau that ferried across the dam soldiers, horses, and cannon. At the end of the dirt road that would be to the right of this, you'll find the fishing hole. And then turning around, we go up the hill and turn left. Next. Okay, so now you are back at the T. Here are horse mounting steps, and there are 4 of these along the trail. So there'll be one on each side of the wooden bridge so they can dismount and remount after they're over the bridge. Go straight and you will be on the Tobacco Heritage Trail with God's beauty all around you. And boy, does that honeysuckle smell amazing. Next. The bench top left is just before the 1 mile marker. And then top right is the main picnic area, about 1.6 miles in. If you're lucky, you may see a bald eagle, wood ducks, or grebes on the pond here. In the spring, look for migrating warblers. There is another picnic area at 2.6 miles, but we turn around here since part of the trail is closed during the construction of the extension. Next. I captured this picture coming off the trail in 2017. It mesmerized me. It is the Halifax Damask Mills Tower. Now you have to know that that morning I traveled the night before from South Carolina to come up to see my new home in South Boston. And it was that night that I walked this trail for the first time, and it was a deal closer for me. I have hiked all over the United States, including Alaska and also in Italy. Sure, I have been on some pretty interesting hikes, especially in national parks. I've seen some unbelievable waterfalls, great sequoias, majestic mountain ranges, and beautiful signage that told of the history along the trails. The Tobacco Heritage Trail in South Boston has none of that, but it's my town's trail, and it's my favorite. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was a beautiful tour of that trail. So now we're going to move into Danville and talk about some of the trails over there in Danville. There are a lot of trails in Danville. And I keep going back and forth, sorry. But I'm going to talk about Anglers Park today, and this is at 350 Northside Drive. It's a beautiful park situated on the scenic Dan River and offers a variety of activities, including fishing, hiking, rugby, and more. It's got a 6-acre marsh and was the result of the wetlands disturbed during the Cane Creek Center development, a shopping center on 58. This marsh is one of the 4 reclamation sites along the Danville Riverwalk Trail and can serve as habitats and breeding grounds for plants and animals, and attracts many birds, including red-winged blackbirds, sandpipers, egrets, and killdeer. Anglers is one of Danville's hot parks. The wireless antenna installed in Anglers Park allows park patrons free Wi-Fi while you're there. So you always have access to Wi-Fi, which is quite nice when you're out in the woods. So Anglers Park is has biking trails. It's known for its biking trails. The Anglers Ridge mountain bike trail system is 35 miles of stacked loop single trails, and it's ranked #1 in Virginia and 32nd in the entire world on mountain biking trails. But there are a lot of scenic trails designed for all skill levels from beginner to expert. From the easier trails such as Riverside Drive, which is relatively flat, shaded, you can go along creeks and through the woods, to difficult trails like Witchback and Hidden Hollow, which are more technical. There's something at Anglers Park for everyone. And you can see here an aerial view of all the trail systems over at Anglers Park. So this is the Danville. A lot of people know Danville for its Riverwalk, but what they don't realize is the Riverwalk now connects to so many cool things throughout Danville. So I encourage you to go on the Riverwalk website or the Danville Parks and Rec website and check out all the cool things there are to do in Danville. I just highlighted the one in Anglers Park. So finally, we're going to Collinsville, Martinsville. in the Henry County area in the city of Martinsville. This is a hot spot of trails. These are just the river accesses. And then we've got a lot of trails, and this has actually been updated 2 years ago. We already have several miles of new trails in addition to these. But today I'm going to focus on the Gravelly Nature Preserve. It's in Ridgeway, Virginia. It's one of my personal favorite trails to hike. The Gravelly Trail is a nature preserve, a 75-acre park located along the Smith River. It has 2 miles of wooded trail are found on the property, along with an outdoor classroom for nature study. It is beautifully preserved and north-facing slopes that gradually descend into the Smith River. There's mature hardwoods and pines that cover the higher areas, and thick bushes of rhododendron and laurel along the base. So this gives you an idea. During your trek, there are interpretive signs all along the trail. The trail is very easy to walk and well maintained. You're going to see lots of wildlife while you are here. You might be lucky to catch an otter or belted kingfishers, warblers, Acadian flycatchers. There's turkey, deer, box turtle, and I've actually seen just about all of them along the trail walk. What's nice about this too is that it also is historical. History buffs will enjoy exploring the family cemetery and learn all about the family plantation, the Burgess family plantation that was here in the 1800s, and the tobacco farming that happened up until the early 1900s. The rhododendron trail shown here is a little bit more difficult trail, but you are rewarded by a living tunnel of rhododendron, beautiful bushes that smell amazing as you walk along the Smith River. So we've talked about just a few of the amazing sites and things to do on the Virginia side of the Dan River Basin. Visit our interactive map. As you can see, danriver.org/interactive map. You can click on any one of these icons and get the address to trails and river accesses throughout. We are constantly adding more. We didn't cover some of the cool trails that are in other parts of the Virginia base, but we might have to have a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4. Who knows? So thank you for joining us today. Please help us preserve and promote these wonderful, unique natural and cultural resources in our region. And I am going to check to see if we have any, it doesn't look like there's any questions right now. If you have any questions, please submit them. And I don't see anybody in the chat box. So I'm going to say goodbye. You can always reach us at the Dan River Basin Association.com or danriver.org rather. Come visit us and check out our website. And thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Sarah, Wayne, Chris. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.